Chapter 7 of Squinty the Comical Pig. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. Recording by Jadapi. Squinty the Comical Pig by Richard Barnum. Squinty learns a trick. Squinty the Comical Pig tried to look out through the slats of the box in which he was being taken away, to see in which direction he was going. He also wanted to watch the different sights along the road, but the sides of the farm wagon were so high that the little pig could see nothing. He stretched his fat neck as far as it would go, but that did no good either. Squinty wished he was as big as his mamma or his papa. "Then I could see what's going on," he thought. But just wishing never made anyone larger or taller, not even a pig, and Squinty stayed the same size. He could hear the farmer and the children talking. Now and then the boy who had bought Squinty, and who was taking him home, would look around at his pet in the slatted box. "Is he all right?" one of the girls would ask. "He seems to be," the boy would say. "I'm glad I got him." "Well, he acts real cute," said another girl, who was called Sally, "but I never heard of having a pig for a pet before." "You just wait until I teach him some tricks," said the boy, whose name was Bob. "Then you'll think he's fine." "Ha! So I'm to learn tricks," thought Squinty in his box. "I wonder what tricks are, anyhow. Does it mean I'm going to have good things to eat? I hope so." You see, Squinty, like most little pigs, thought more of something to eat than of anything else. But we must not blame him for that, since he couldn't help it. Pretty soon the wagon rattled over some stones, and then came to a stop. "Here we are!" called the children's father. "Bring along your little pig, Bob. Here comes the train." "Ha! It seems I am to go on a train," thought Squinty. "I wonder what a train is." Squinty had many things to learn, didn't he? The little pig in the box felt himself being lifted out of the wagon. Then he could look about him. He saw a large building, in front of which were long, slender strips of shining steel. These were the railroad tracks, but Squinty did not know that. Then all at once Squinty heard a loud noise, which went like this: "Wee! Wee! Wee! Wee!" "Oh, my! What a loud squeal that pig has!" exclaimed Squinty. "He can squeal so much louder than I can, I think. Let me try." So Squinty went squee, squee, squee. And then the big noise sounded again, louder than before. "Wee! Wee! Toot! Toot!" "Oh, my!" said Squinty to himself, snuggling down in the straw of his box. "I never can squeal as loud as that! Never!" He looked out and saw a big black thing rushing toward him, with smoke coming out of the top, and then the big black thing cried out again: "Wee! Wee! Toot! Toot!" "Oh, what a terrible big black pig!" thought Squinty, and he was a bit frightened. But it was not a big black pig at all. It was only the engine drawing the train of cars up to the station to take the passengers away. And it was going to take Squinty also. Squinty thought the engine whistle was a pig squeal, but it wasn't, of course. Pretty soon the train stopped. The passengers made a rush to get in the cars. Bob, the boy, caught up the handle of Squinty's box, and after some bumping and tilting sideways, the little pig found himself set down in a rather dark place, for the boy had put the box on the floor of the car by his seat, near his feet. And there Squinty rode, seeing nothing, but hearing many strange noises, until, after many stops, he was lifted up again. "Here we are!" the little pig heard the children's papa saying. "Have you everything? Don't forget your pig, Bob." "I won't," answered the boy, with a jolly laugh. "Well, I wonder what will happen next," thought Squinty, as he felt himself being carried along again. He could see nothing but a crowd of persons all about the boy who carried the box. I don't know whether I'm going to like this or not, this coming to live in town," thought the little pig. "Still, I cannot help myself, I suppose. But I do wish I had something to eat." I guess the boy must have known Squinty was hungry, for when he set down the box, this time in a carriage, the boy gave the little pig a whole apple to eat, and how good it did taste to Squinty. "Are you going to make a pen for him?" asked one of the boy's sisters, as the carriage drove off. "Yes, as soon as we get to the house," said the boy. By this time Squinty was thirsty. There was no water in his cage, but a little later, when he saw through the slats that he was being carried toward a large white house, he was given a tin of water to drink. "I'll just leave him in that box until I can fix a larger one for him," the boy said. And then, for a while, Squinty was left all to himself. But he was still in the box, though the box was set in a shady place on the back porch. All this while Mr. Pig and Mrs. Pig, as well as the brothers and sister pigs in the pen at home, were wondering what had happened to Squinty. "Where do you think he is now, Mamma?" Wuff Wuff would ask. "Oh, I don't know," Mrs. Pig answered. "And will he ever come back to us?" asked Twisty Tail. "Perhaps some day. I hope so," said Mrs. Pig, sort of sighing. "Oh, yes, I think he will," said Mr. Pig. "When he gets quite large, the boy will get tired of having him for a pet, and perhaps bring him back." "Were you ever carried off that way, Papa?" asked Grunter, as he rubbed his back, where a mosquito had bitten him, against the side of the pen. "Oh, yes, once," answered Mr. Pig. "I was taken away from my pen when I was pretty large, and given to a little girl for a pet. But she did not keep me long. I guess she would rather have had her dolls, so I was soon brought back to my pen, and I was glad of it." "Well, I hope they will soon bring Squinty back," Wuff Wuff said. "It is lonesome without him." But after a while the other pigs found so many things to do, and they were kept so busy, eating sour milk and getting fat, that they nearly forgot about Squinty. But all this time something was happening to the comical little pig. Toward evening of the first day that Squinty had been put in the new little cage, the boy, who had not been near him in some time, came back to look at his pet. "Now I have a larger place for you," the boy said, speaking just as though Squinty could understand him. And in fact Squinty did know much of what was said to him, though he could not talk back in boy language, being able to speak only his own pig talk. "And I guess you're hungry, too, and want something to eat," the boy went on. "I will feed you." "Squee! Squee! Squee!" squealed Squinty. If there was one word in man talk that he understood very well, it was feed. He had often heard the farmer say, "Well, now, I must feed the pigs." And right after that some nice sour milk would come splashing down into the trough of the pen. So when Squinty heard the word "feed" again, he guessed what was going to happen. And he guessed right, too. The boy picked Squinty up, box and all, and carried him to the back yard. "Now I'll give you more room to run about, and then I'll have a nice supper for you," the boy said, talking to his little pig, just as you would to your dog or kitty. With a hammer the boy knocked off some of the slats of the small box in which Squinty had made his journey. Then the boy lifted out the comical little pig, and Squinty found himself inside a large box, very much like the pen at home. It had clean straw in it, and a little trough, just like the one at his home where he could eat. But there was nothing in the trough to eat, as yet, and the box seemed quite lonesome, for Squinty was all alone. "Here you are now, some nice sour milk and boiled potatoes!" cried the boy, and then Squinty smelled the most delicious smell, to him at least. Down into the trough came the sour milk and potatoes. "Squee! Squee!" yelled Squinty in delight. And how fast he ate! That was because he was hungry, you see, but pigs nearly always eat fast, as though they were continually in a hurry. "Oh, isn't it cute!" exclaimed a voice over Squinty's head. He looked up, half shutting his one funny eye and cocking one ear up and letting the other droop down, but he did not stop eating. "Oh, isn't he funny!" cried another voice, and Squinty saw the boy and his sisters looking at him. "Yes, he surely is a nice pig," the boy said. "In a few days, when he gets over being strange, I'm going to teach him some tricks." "Huh! There's that word 'tricks' again," thought Squinty. "I wonder what tricks are. But I shall very soon find out." For a few days Squinty was rather lonesome in his new pen, all by himself. He missed his papa and mamma and brothers and sisters. But the boy came to see Squinty every day, bringing him nice things to eat, and after a bit Squinty came to look for his new friend. "I guess you're getting to know me, aren't you, old fellow?" the boy said one day, after feeding Squinty, and he scratched the little pig on the back with a stick. grunted Squinty. That, I suppose, was his way of saying, "Of course I know you, and I like you, boy." One day, about a week after he had come to his new home, Squinty heard the boy say, "Now I think you're tame enough to be let out. I don't believe you'll run away, will you? But anyhow, I'll tie a string to your leg, and then you can't." Squinty wished he could speak boy language and tell his friend that he would not run away as long as he was kindly treated, but of course Squinty could not do this. Instead, he could only grunt and squeal. The boy tied a string to Squinty's leg, and then let him out of the pen. The comical little pig was glad to have more room in which to move about. He walked first to one side and then the other, rooting in the dirt with his funny, rubbery nose. The boy laughed to see him. "I guess you're looking for something to eat," the boy said. "Well, let's see if you can find these acorns." The boy hid them under a pile of dirt and watched. Squinty smelled about and sniffed. He could easily tell where the acorns had been hidden, and a moment later he had rooted them up and was eating them. "Oh, you funny little pig!" cried the boy. "You are real smart. You know how to find acorns. That is one trick." "Huh! If that is a trick, it's a very easy one. Just rooting up acorns," thought Squinty to himself. Squinty walked around as far as the rope tied to his leg would let him. The other end of the rope was held by the boy. Once the rope got tangled around Squinty's foot, and he jumped over it to get free. The boy saw him and cried, "Oh, I wonder if I could teach you to jump the rope. That would be a fine trick. Let me see." The boy thought a moment, and then lifted Squinty up and set him down on one side of the rope, which he raised a little way from the ground, just as girls do when they are playing a skipping game. On the other side of the rope the boy put an apple. "Now, Squinty," said Bob, "if you want that apple, you must jump the rope to get it. Come on." At first Squinty did not understand what was wanted of him. He saw nothing but the apple, and thought how much he wanted it. He started for it, but before he could get it the boy pulled up the rope in front of him. The rope stopped Squinty. "Jump over the rope if you want the apple," said the boy. Of course Squinty could not exactly understand this talk. He tried once more to get the apple, but every time he did he found the rope in front of him in the way. "Well," exclaimed Squinty to himself, "I'm going to get that apple, rope or no rope. I guess I'll have to get over the rope somehow." So the next time he started for the juicy apple and the rope was pulled up in front of him, Squinty gave a little spring, and over the rope he went, jumping with all four legs, coming down on the other side, like a circus man jumping over the elephant's back. "Oh, fine! Good!" cried the boy, clapping his hands. "Squinty has learned to do another trick." grunted Squinty as he chewed the apple. "So that's another trick, is it?" End of Chapter 7. Recording by Jadapi. www.publicdomainaudiobooks.blogspot.com
Of Squinty the Comical Pig. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Squinty the Comical Pig by Richard Barnum. Chapter 8. Squinty in the Woods. Bob, the boy who had bought Squinty the Comical Pig, laughed and clapped his hands. His two sisters, who were playing with their dolls in the shade of an evergreen tree, heard their brother, and one of them called out: "What is it, Bob? What is it?" "Oh, come and see my pig do a trick," answered the boy. "He is too funny for anything." "Can he really do a trick?" asked the smaller sister, whose name was Molly. "Indeed he can," the boy said. "He can do two tricks: find hidden acorns and jump a rope." "Oh, no, not really jump a rope!" cried Sally. "You just come and see," the boy said. All the while Squinty was chewing on the apple which he had picked up from the ground after he had jumped over the rope. He heard what the boy said, and Squinty made up his mind. "Well," said the little pig to himself, "if it is any fun for that boy and his sisters to watch me jump over a rope and dig up acorns, I don't mind doing it for them. They call them tricks, but I call it getting something to eat." And they were both right, you see. Sally and Molly, the two sisters, laid down their dolls in the shade, and ran toward their brother, who still held one end of the rope that was fast to Squinty's legs. "Make him do some tricks for us," begged Molly. "Show us how he jumps the rope," said Sally. "First I'll have him dig up the acorns, as that's easier," spoke Bob. "Here, Squinty," he called. "Find the acorns. Find them." While Squinty had been munching on the apple, the boy had dug a hole, put some sweet acorn nuts into it, and covered them up with dirt. Squinty had not seen them do this, but Squinty thought he could find the nuts just the same. There were two ways of doing this. Squinty had a very sharp smelling nose. He could smell things afar off, that neither you nor I could smell even close by. And Squinty could also tell, by digging in the ground with his queer, rubbery nose, just where the ground was soft and where it was hard, and he knew it would be a soft place where the boy had dug a hole in which to hide the acorns. So, when Bob called for Squinty to come and find the acorn nuts, even though the little pig had not seen just where they were hidden, Squinty felt sure he could dig them up. "He'll never find them," said Sally. "Just you watch!" exclaimed the boy. He pulled on the rope around Squinty's leg. At first the little pig was not quite sure what was wanted of him. He thought perhaps he was to jump over the rope after another apple, but he saw no fruit waiting for him. Then he looked carefully about and smelled the air. The boy was very gentle with him and waited patiently. And I might say right here that if you ever try to teach your pet any tricks, you might be both kind and gentle with them, for you know they are not as smart as you are, and cannot think as quickly. "Ha! I smell acorns," thought Squinty to himself. "I guess the boy must want me to do the first trick, as he calls it, and dig up acorns. I'll do it." Carefully Squinty sniffed the air. When he turned one way he could smell the acorns quite plainly. When he turned the other he could not smell them quite so well. So he started off in the direction where he could most plainly smell the nuts he loved so well. Next he began rooting in the ground. At first it was very hard for his nose, but soon it became soft. Then he could smell the acorns more plainly than before. "See, he is going right toward them!" cried the boy. "There, he has him!" exclaimed Sally. "Oh, so he has!" spoke Molly. "I wouldn't have thought he could." And by that time Squinty had found the hole where the boy had covered the acorns with dirt, and Squinty was chewing the sweet nuts. "Now make him jump the rope," said Molly. "I will, as soon as he eats the acorns," replied the boy. "Ha! I am going to have another apple, just for jumping the rope," thought Squinty in delight. You see, the little pig imagined the trick was done just to get him to eat the apple. He did not count the rope jumping part of it at all, though that really was what the boy wanted. Once more Bob placed the apple on the ground on the far side of the rope. One end of the rope the boy held in his hand, the other was around Squinty's legs, but a loop of it was made fast to stick stuck in the ground, so the boy could pull on the rope and raise or lower it, just as you girls do when you play. "Come on now, Squinty, jump over it!" called the boy. The little pig saw the apple and smelled it. He wanted very much to get it, but when he ran toward it he found the rope raised up in front of him. He forgot for a moment his second trick and stood still. "Oh, I thought you said he would jump the rope," said Molly, rather disappointed. "He will. Just wait a minute," spoke the boy. "Come on, Squinty," he called. Once more Squinty started for the apple. This time he remembered that, before, he had to jump the rope to get it. So he did it again. Over the rope he went, with a little jump, coming down on the side where the apple was, and, in a second, he was chewing the juicy fruit. "There!" cried the boy. "Didn't he jump the rope?" "Oh, well, he didn't jump it fast, back and forth, like we girls do," said Molly. "But it was pretty good for a little pig," said Sallie. "I think so, too," spoke the boy, "and I'm going to teach him to jump real fast, and without going for an apple each time. I'm going to teach him other tricks, too." "Oh, dear!" thought Squinty when he heard this. "So I am to learn more tricks, it seems. Well, I hope they will all be eating ones." "Make him do it again," suggested Molly after a bit. "No, I haven't any more apples," the boy answered. "And at first I'll have to make him jump for an apple each time. After a bit I'll not give him an apple until he's done all his tricks. Come on now, Squinty, back to your pen." The boy lifted up his pet, and put him back in the pen that had been especially built for the little pig. As soon as he was in it, Squinty ran over to the trough, hoping there would be some sour milk in it, but there was none. "You've had enough to eat for a while," said the boy with a laugh. "Later on I'll give you milk." "Uff! Uff!" grunted Squinty, and I suppose he meant he would be glad to have the milk now, but he got none, so he curled himself up in the clean straw and went to sleep. When he awakened, he thought at first he was back in the pen at home, and he cried out: "Oh, Wuff Wuff! Oh, Twisty Tail! I had the queerest dream! I thought a boy had me, and that I could jump a rope, and hunt acorns, and do lots of tricks, but I—" And then Squinty stopped. He looked around, and found himself all alone in the new pen. None of his brothers or sisters was near him, and he could not hear his mamma or papa grunting near the feed trough. "Ha! It wasn't a dream after all," thought Squinty a bit sorrowfully. "It's all real. I can do tricks, and a boy has me." Every few days after that the boy took Squinty out of his pen and let him do the rope jumping and acorn hunting tricks. And it did not take Squinty long to learn to jump the rope when there was no apple on the other side. The boy would say: "Jump over the rope, Squinty!" and over it the little pig would go, but if he did not get the apple as soon as he jumped, he did get it afterwards, which was just as good. It was sort of a reward for his tricks, you see. "Now you must learn a new trick," said the boy one day. "I want you to learn to walk on your hind legs, Squinty. It's not going to be easy either, but I guess you can do it. And I am going to take the rope off your leg, for I do not believe you will run away from me now." So the rope was taken off Squinty's leg, and he liked the boy so much, and liked his new home, and the nuts and apples he got to eat were so good, that Squinty did not try to run away. "Up on your hind legs!" cried the boy, and, by taking hold of Squinty's front feet, Bob raised his pet up on the hind legs. "Now stand there!" the boy cried, but when he took away his hands, of course Squinty came down on all four legs. He did not know what the boy meant to have him do. "I guess I'll have to stand you in a corner to start with," the boy said. "That will brace you up." Then, kindly and gently, the boy took Squinty over to the place where the corn crib was built onto the barn. This made a corner, and the little pig was stood up on his hind legs in that. Then, with something to lean his back against, he did not feel like falling over, and he remained standing up on two legs, with his front feet stuck out in front of him. "That's the way to do it!" cried Bob. "Soon you will be able to stand up without anything to lean against, and, a little later, you'll be able to walk on your hind legs. Now here's an apple for you, Squinty." So you see, Squinty received his reward for starting to learn a new trick. In a few days, just as the boy had said, the little pig found that he could sit up on his hind legs all alone without anything to lean back against. But learning to walk on his legs was a little harder. The boy, however, was patient and kind to him. At first Bob held Squinty's front feet and walked along with him so the little pig would get used to the new trick. Then one day Bob said: "Now, Squinty, I want you to walk to me all by yourself. Stand up." Squinty stood up on his hind legs. The boy backed away from him and stood a little distance off, holding out a nice juicy potato this time. "Come and get the potato." "Squee! Squee!" grunted Squinty. "I can't," I suppose he meant to say. "Come on!" cried the boy. "Don't be afraid. You can do it." Squinty wanted the potato very much. and the only way to get it was to walk to it on his hind legs. If he let himself down on all fours he knew the boy would not give him the potato. So Squinty made up his little pig mind that he would do this new trick. Off he started, walking by himself on his hind legs, just like a trained bear. "Fine! That's the way to do it! I knew you could!" the boy cried when Squinty reached him, and took the potato out of his hand. "Good little pig!" and he scratched Squinty's back with a stick. "Uff! Uff!" squealed Squinty, very much pleased, and from then on the comical little pig learned many tricks. He could now stand up a long time on his hind legs with an apple on his nose, and he would not eat it until the boy called, "Now, Squinty!" Then Squinty would toss the apple up in the air off his nose and catch it as it came down. Oh, how good it tasted! Squinty also learned to march around with a stick for a gun and play soldier. He liked this trick best of all, for he had 2 apples to eat after that. Many of Bob's boy friends came to see his trained pig. They all thought he was very funny and cute, and they laughed very hard when Squinty looked at them with his clear, drooping eye. They would feed him apples, potatoes, and sometimes bits of cake that Bob's mother gave them. Squinty grew very fond of cake. Then one day something happened. Bob always used to lock the door of the new pig pen every night, for though he knew his pet was quite tame now, he thought if the door was left open Squinty might wander away. And that is exactly what Squinty did. He did not mean to do wrong, but he knew no better. One evening, after he had done many tricks that day, when Squinty found the door of his pen part way open, he just pushed it the rest of the way with his strong nose, and out he walked. No one saw him. "Uff! Uff!" grunted Squinty, looking about. "I guess I'll go take a walk by myself. I may find something good to eat." Out of the pen he went. There was no garden here, such as the farmer had at Squinty's first home, but not far from the pig pen was the big green wood. "I'll go over in there and see what happens," thought Squinty. "Perhaps I may find some acorns." So Squinty ran away to the woods. End of chapter 8. Of Squinty the Comical Pig. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Squinty the Comical Pig by Richard Barnum. Chapter 9. Squinty's Balloon Ride. This was the 3rd time Squinty had run away, but not once did he intend to do any wrong. You see, he knew no better. He just found his pen door open and walked out. That was all there was to it. "I wonder what will happen to me this time," thought the comical little pig as he hurried along over the ground toward the woods. "I don't believe Don the dog will find me here, for he must be back on the farm, but some other dog might. I had better be careful, I guess." When Squinty thought this, he stopped and looked carefully around for signs of a barking dog, but he saw none. It was very still and quiet, for it was nearly supper time in the big house where Bob lived, and he and his sisters were waiting for the bell to ring to call him to the supper. But Squinty had had his supper, and, for the time, he was not hungry. "And if I do get hungry again, I may find something in the woods," he said to himself. "Acorn nuts grow in the woods, and they are very good. I'll root up some of them." Once or twice Squinty looked back toward the pen he had run from, to see if Bob, his master, were coming after him. But Bob had no idea his little pet had run away. In fact, just then, Bob was wondering what new trick he could teach Squinty the next day. On and on ran the comical pig. Once he found something round and yellow on the ground. "Ha! That looks like a yellow apple," thought Squinty, and he bit it hard with his white teeth. Then his mouth all puckered up. He felt a sour taste, and he cried out: "Whoa! I don't like that! Oh, that isn't an apple at all!" And it wasn't. It was a lemon the grocery boy had dropped. "Oh, how sour!" grunted Squinty. "I'd like a drink of water to take the taste of that out of my mouth." Squinty lifted his nose up in the air and sniffed and snuffed. He wanted to try to smell a spring of water, and he did, just on the edge of the big wood. Over to the spring he ran on his little short legs, and soon he was having a fine drink. "Now I feel better," Squinty said. "What will happen next?" Nothing did for some time, and when it did it was so strange that Squinty never forgot it as long as he lived. I'll tell you all about it. He walked on through the woods, Squinty did, and, before long, he found some acorns. He ate as many as he wanted, and then, as he always felt sleepy after he had eaten, he thought he would lie down and have a nap. He found a place near a big stump where there was a soft bed of dried leaves, nearly as nice as his straw bed in the pen at home. On this he stretched out, and soon he was fast asleep. When Squinty awoke it was real dark. He jumped up with a little grunt and said to himself, "Well, I did not mean to stay away from my pen so long. I guess I had better go back." Squinty started to go back the way he had come, but I guess you can imagine what happened. It was so dark he could not find the path. He walked about, stumbling over sticks and stones and stumps, sometimes falling down on soft moss, and again on the hard ground. Finally Squinty thought, "Well, it is of no use. I can't get back tonight, that is sure. I shall have to stay here. Oh, dear! I hope there are no dogs to bite me." Squinty listened carefully. He could hear no barks. He hunted around in the dark until he found another soft bed of leaves, and on that he cuddled himself up to go to sleep for the night. He was a little afraid, but, after all, he was used to sleeping alone, and even though he was outside of his pen now, he did not worry much. "In the morning I shall go back to the boy who taught me tricks," thought Squinty. But something else happened in the morning. Squinty was awake when the sun first peeped up from behind the clouds. The little pig scratched his ear where a mosquito had bitten him during the night. Then he stretched first one leg and then the others, and said, "Ha! Ho! Hum! Uff! Uff! I guess I'll have some acorns for my breakfast." It was a very easy matter for Squinty to get his breakfast. He did not have to wash, or comb his hair, or even dress. Just as he was, he got up out of his leaf bed and began rooting around for some acorns in the ground. He soon found all he wanted, and ate them. Then he felt thirsty, so he looked around until he had found another spring of cool water, where he drank as much as he needed. "And now to go back home to the boy who taught me tricks," said Squinty to himself. "I guess he is wondering where I am." And indeed that boy, Bob, and his sisters, Mollie and Sallie, were wondering where Squinty was. They saw the open door of the pen, and the boy recalled that he had forgotten to lock it. "Oh, Squinty is gone!" he cried, and he felt very badly indeed. But I have no time to tell you more of that boy now. I must relate for you the wonderful adventures of Squinty. Squinty went this way and that through the woods, but he could not find the path that led to his pen. He tried and tried again, but it was of no use. "Well," said Squinty at last, sitting down beside a hollow log, "I guess I am lost. That is all there is to it. I am lost in the big woods. Oh, dear! I almost wish Don the dog or the farmer would come and find me now." He waited, but no one came. He listened, but he heard nothing. "Well, I might as well eat and go to sleep again," said Squinty. "Maybe something will happen then." Soon he was asleep again, but he was suddenly awakened. He heard a great crash in the trees over his head. "Gracious! I hope that isn't a dog after me!" cried the little pig. He looked up, Squinty did. He saw something coming down from the sky, through the branches of the trees, a big round thing, like more than 10,000 rubber balls made into one. Below the round thing hung a square basket with many ropes and other things fast to it, and in the basket were two men. They looked over the edge of the basket. One of them pulled on a rope, and the big thing, which was a balloon, though Squinty did not know it, came to the ground with a bang. "Well, at last we have made a landing," said one of the men. "Yes," said the other, "and we shall have to throw out some bags of sand to go up again." Squinty did not know what this meant, but I'll explain to you that a landing is when a balloon comes down to the ground, and when the men in it want to go up again they have to toss out some of the sand bags, or ballast, they carry to make the balloon so light that the gas in it will take it up again. The men began tossing out the bags of sand. Squinty saw them, but he was not afraid. Why should he be? For no men or boys had ever been cruel to him. "Uff! Uff!" grunted Squinty, getting up and going over to the bags of sand. "Maybe this is good to eat," he thought. "If it is, I will take a bite. I am hungry." "Oh, look at that pig!" suddenly called one of the men in the balloon basket. "Sure enough, it is a pig!" exclaimed the other. "And what a comical little chap he is!" he went on. "See the funny way he looks at you!" At that moment Squinty looked, as he often did, with one eye partly closed, the other open, and one ear cocked frontwards and the other backwards. "Say, he's a cute one all right," said the first man. "Let's take him along." We'd only have to toss out as much sand as he weighs, so we could go up." "Oh, let's take him along anyhow," insisted the other. "Maybe he's a mascot for us." "Well, if he's a mascot, all right. Then we'll take him. We need some good luck on this trip." Squinty did not know what a mascot was. Perhaps he thought it was something good to eat, but I might say that a mascot is something which some person thinks brings them good luck. Often baseball nines or football 11s will have a smart boy, or a goat, or a dog, whom they call their mascot. They take him along wherever they play games, thinking the mascot helps them to win. Of course it really does not, but there is no harm in a mascot anyhow. "Yes, we'll take him along in the balloon with us," said the taller of the two men. "See, he doesn't seem to be a bit afraid." "No, and look, he must be a trick pig. Maybe he got away from some circus," cried the other man. For at that moment Squinty stood up on his hind legs, as the boy had taught him, and walked over towards the big balloon basket. What he really wanted was something to eat, but the men did not know that. "He surely is a cute little pig!" cried the man. "I'll lift him in. You toss out another bag of sand, and we'll go up." The next moment, before he could get out of the man's grasp if he had wanted to, Squinty felt himself lifted off the ground. He was put in the bottom of the basket, which held many things. A second later Squinty the Comical Pig felt himself flying upward through the air. Squinty was off on a balloon trip. End of chapter 9.
Of Squinty the Comical Pig. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Squinty the Comical Pig by Richard Barnum. Chapter 10. Squinty and the Squirrel. Up and up some more went Squinty the Comical Pig. At first the fast motion in the balloon made him a little dizzy, just as it might make you feel queer the first time you went on a merry-go-round. "Uff! Uff!" grunted Squinty. He was so surprised at this sudden adventure that, really, he did not know what to say. "I wonder if he's afraid," said one of the men. "He acts so," the other answered, "but he'll get used to it. How high up are you going?" "Oh, about a mile, I guess." Squinty cuddled down in the basket of the balloon, between two bags full of something, and shivered. "My goodness me!" thought poor Squinty. "A mile up in the air! That's awfully high." He knew about how far a mile was on land, for it was about the distance from the farmhouse, near where his pen used to be, to the village church. He had often heard the farmer man say so. "And if it was a mile from my pen to the church, and that mile of road was stood straight up in the air," thought Squinty, "it would be a terrible long way to fall. I hope I don't fall." And it did not seem as if he would, at least not right away. The basket in which he was riding looked good and strong. Squinty had shut his eyes when he heard the men speak about going a mile up in the air, but now, as the balloon seemed to have stopped rising, the little pig opened his eyes again, and peered all about him. "Look!" exclaimed one of the men with a laugh. "Hasn't that pig the most comical face you ever saw?" "That's what he has," answered the other. "He makes me want to laugh every time I look at him, with that funny, half-shut eye of his." "Well," thought Squinty, "I'm glad somebody is happy and jolly, and wants to laugh, for I'm sure I don't. I wish I hadn't run away from the nice boy who taught me the tricks." Then, as Squinty remembered how he had been taught to stand up on his hind legs, he thought he would do that trick now. He was hungry, and he imagined, perhaps, if he did that trick, the men would give him something to eat. "Look at the little chap!" cried one of the men. "He's showing off all right." "Yes, he's a smart pig," said the other. "He must be a trick pig, and I guess whoever owns him will be sorry he is lost." "Huh! I'm sorry myself," thought Squinty to himself, as he walked around on his hind legs. "I wonder if these men are ever going to give me anything to eat," he went on. He looked at them from his queer, squinting eye, but the men did not seem to know that the little pig was hungry. On and on sailed the balloon, being blown by the wind like a sailboat. Squinty dropped down on his four legs, since he found that walking on his hind legs brought him no food. Then, as he made his way about the basket, he saw some more of those queer bags filled with something. There were a great many of them in the balloon, and Squinty thought they must have something good in them. Squinty squatted down beside one, and, with his strong teeth, he soon had bitten a hole in the cloth. Then he took a big bite, but oh dear! All at once he found his mouth filled with coarse sand that gritted on his teeth and made the cold shivers run down his back. "Oh, wow!" thought poor Squinty. "That's no good. Sand! I wonder if those men eat sand?" Of course they didn't. The sand in the bags was ballast. The balloon men carried it with them, and when they found the balloon coming down, because some of the gas had leaked out of the round ball above the basket, they would let some of the sand run out of the bags to the ground below. This would make the balloon lighter, and it would rise again. "Squee! Squee! Oof! Oof!" grunted Squinty, as he wiped the sand off his tongue on one of his legs. "I don't like that. I'm hungry." "Why, what's the matter with the little pig?" asked one of the men, turning round and looking at Squinty. "He must be hungry," said the other. "See, he has bitten a hole in one of our sand bags. Let's feed him." "All right, give him something to eat, but we didn't bring any pig food along with us." "I'll give him some bread and milk," the other man said. "We don't want much more ourselves, for we are nearly at our last landing place." "Squee! Squee!" squealed Squinty. When he heard this, he watched the man put some bread and milk in a tin pan and set it down on the floor of the basket. Then Squinty put his nose in the dish and began to eat. And oh, how good it tasted! Of course the milk was sweet instead of sour, for men do not usually like sour milk. Squinty had a good meal, and then he went to sleep. What happened while Squinty slept, the little pig did not know, but when he woke up it was all dark, and he knew it must be night, so he went to sleep again. And the next time he awakened the sun was shining, so he felt sure it was morning. And then, all of a sudden, something happened. One of the men called out, "There is a good place to land." "Yes, we'll go down there," agreed the other. Then he pulled a string. Squinty did not know what it was for, but I'll tell you. It was to open a hole in the balloon so the gas would rush out. Then the balloon would begin to fall. And that is what happened. Down, down went the balloon. It went very fast, and Squinty felt dizzy. Faster and faster fell the balloon, until at last it gave such a bump down on the ground that Squinty was bounced right over the side of the basket. Right out of the basket the comical little pig was bounced, but he came down in a soft bed of leaves, so he was not hurt in the least. And he landed on his feet, just like a cat, and gave a loud squeal, he was so surprised. And then Squinty ran away. Almost anybody would have run, too, I guess, after falling down in a balloon, and being bounced out that way. Squinty had had enough of balloon riding. "I don't know where I'm going, nor what will happen to me now," thought Squinty, "but I'm going to run and hide." And run he did. He found himself in the woods, just the same kind of woods as where he had met first the two balloon men. Only, of course, it was much farther off, for he had traveled a long way through the air. On and on ran Squinty. All at once in a tree over his head he heard a funny chattering noise. Chipper, chipper, chipper! Chat, chat! Whirr! Went the noise. Squinty looked up in the tree, and there he saw a lovely little girl squirrel frisking about on the branches. Then Squinty was no longer afraid. Out of the leaves he jumped, giving a squeal and a grunt which meant, "Oh, how do you do? I'm glad to see you. My name is Squinty. What is your name?" "My name is Slicko," answered the lively little girl squirrel, as she jumped about. "Come on and play." Squinty felt very happy then. End of Chapter 10. Of Squinty the Comical Pig. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Squinty the Comical Pig by Richard Barnum. Chapter 11. Squinty and the Merry Monkey. "Where do you live, Squinty?" asked Slicko, the jumping squirrel, as she skipped from one tree branch to another, and so reached the ground near the comical little pig. "Oh, I live in a pen," answered Squinty, "but I'm not there now." "No, I see you're not," spoke Slicko with a laugh, which showed her sharp, white teeth. "But what are you doing so far away from your pen? Or perhaps it is close by, though I never saw you in these woods before," she went on, looking around as if she might see the pig pen under one of the trees. "No, I have never been here before," Squinty answered. "My pen is far from here. My master is a boy who taught me to do tricks, such as jumping rope, but I ran away and had a balloon ride." "What's a balloon?" asked Slicko, as she combed out her tail with a chestnut burr. Squirrels always use chestnut burrs for combs. "A balloon is something that goes up in the air," answered Squinty, "and it has bags of sand in it." "Well, I can go up in the air when I climb a tree," went on Slicko with a jolly laugh. "Am I a balloon?" "No, you're not," said Squinty. "A balloon is very different." "Well, I know where there is some sand," spoke Slicko. "I could get some of that and put it in leaf bags. Would that make me a balloon?" "Oh, no, of course not," Squinty answered. "You could never be a balloon. But if you know where there is some, and perhaps you know where there is some sour milk, I'm very hungry." "I never heard of sour milk," replied the girl squirrel, "but I know where to find some nuts. Do you like hickory nuts?" I guess so," answered Squinty, thinking perhaps they were like acorns. "Please show me where there are some." "Come on," chattered Slicko. She led the way through the woods, leaping from one tree branch to another over Squinty's head. The little pig ran along on the ground, through the dry leaves. Sometimes he went on 4 feet, and sometimes he stood up straight on his hind feet. "Can you do that?" he asked the squirrel. "It is a trick the boy taught me." "Oh, yes, I can sit up on my hind legs, and eat a nut," the squirrel girl said. "But nobody taught me. I could always do it. I don't call that a trick." "Well, it's a trick for me," said Squinty. "But where are the hickory nuts you spoke of?" "Right here," answered Slicko, the jumping squirrel, hopping about as lively as a cricket, and she pointed to a pile of nuts in a hollow stump. Squinty tried to chew some, but as soon as he took them in his mouth he cried out: "Oh my, how hard the shells are! This is worse than the sand. I can't chew hickory nuts. Have you no other kind?" "Oh, yes, I know where there are some acorns," answered Slicko, "but I do not care for them as well as for hickory nuts." "Oh, please show me the acorns," begged Squinty. "Here they are," spoke Slicko, jumping a little farther, and she pointed to a pile of acorns in another hollow stump. "Oh, these are fine. Thank you," grunted Squinty, and he began to eat them. All at once there sounded through the woods a noise like chat, chat, chatter, whirr. "My, what's that?" cried Squinty, turning quickly around. "That is my mamma calling me," said Slicko, the jumping squirrel. "I shall have to go home to my nest now. Good bye, Squinty. I like you very much, and I hope I shall soon see you again." "I hope so too," spoke Squinty, and while he went on eating the acorns, Slicko ran along the tree branches to her nest, and in another book I shall tell you some more stories about Slicko the jumping squirrel, but in this book I have room to write only about Squinty. The little comical pig was rather lonesome after Slicko had left him, but he was no longer hungry, thanks to the acorns. So he walked on, and pretty soon he came to a road, and down the road he saw coming the strangest sight. There were a lot of big wagons, all painted red and green and gold. Many horses drew each wagon, the big wheels of which rattled like thunder, and beside the wagons there were many strange animals walking along, animals which Squinty had never seen before. "Oh my!" cried Squinty. "This is worse than the balloon. I must run away." But, just as he turned to run, he saw a little animal jump out of one of the big wagons and come toward him. This animal was something like a little boy, only instead of clothes he was covered with hairy fur. And the animal had a long tail, which Squinty knew no boy ever had. Squinty was so surprised at seeing the strange animal that the little pig stood still. The hairy animal with the long tail came straight for the bush behind which Squinty was hiding, and crawled through. Then the two stood looking at one another while the big wagons rumbled past on the road. "Hello!" Squinty finally exclaimed. "Who are you?" "Why, I'm Mappo, the merry monkey," was the answer, as he curled his long tail around a stick of wood. "But I don't need to ask who you are. You are a pig, I can see that, for we have one in our circus, and the clown rides him around the ring, and it is too funny for anything." "Ha! So you're a monkey?" asked Squinty. "But what do you mean by a circus?" "That's a circus," answered Mappo, pointing with one paw through a hole in the bush at the queer animals and the red, gold and green wagons. "That is, it will be a circus when they put up the big tent and all the people come. Didn't you ever see a circus?" "Never," answered Squinty. "Did you ever ride in a balloon?" "Never," answered Mappo. "Well, then we are even," said Squinty. "Now you tell me about a circus, and I'll tell you about the balloon." "Well," said the monkey, "a circus is a big show in a tent to make people laugh. There are clowns and animals to look at. I am one of the animals, but I ran out of my cage when the door flew open." "Why did you run away?" asked Squinty. "Oh, I got tired of staying in a cage, and I was afraid the big tiger might bite me. I'll run back again pretty soon, before they miss me. Now you tell me about your balloon ride." So Squinty told the merry monkey all about running away, and learning tricks, and having a ride in the queer basket. "I can do tricks too," said Mappo, "but just now I'm hungry. I wonder if any cocoanut trees are in these woods." "I don't know what a cocoanut is," answered Squinty, "but I'll give you some of my acorns." The comical little pig and the merry monkey hid under the bush and ate acorns as they watched the circus procession go past. It was not a regular parade, as the show was going only from one town to another. Squinty looked at the beautiful wagons and at the strange animals, some with big humps on their backs. At last he saw some very big creatures, and he cried out: "Oh, Mappo! What are those animals? They have a tail at each end." "Those are elephants," said Mappo, "and they do not have two tails. One is a tail, and the other is their trunk, or long nose, by which they pick up peanuts and other things to eat. And they can drink water through it, too." "Oh, elephants, eh?" exclaimed Squinty. "But who is that big, fierce looking one, with two long teeth sticking out? I would be afraid of him." "Ha! Ha! You wouldn't need to be," said Mappo with a merry laugh. "That is Tum Tum, the jolliest elephant in the whole circus. Why, he is so kind he wouldn't hurt a fly, and he is so happy that everyone loves him. He is always playing jokes." "Well, I'm glad he is so jolly," spoke Squinty, as he watched Tum Tum and the other elephants march slowly along the road on their big feet, like washtubs, swinging their long trunks. Then Mappo, the monkey, and Squinty, the comical pig, started off through the woods. End of Chapter 11. Squinty, the Comical Pig. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Squinty the Comical Pig by Richard Barnum. Chapter 12. Squinty Gets Home Again. "Squinty, I don't believe we are going to find any cocoanut trees in this woods," said Mappo, the monkey, after he and the little pig had wandered on for some time. "It doesn't seem so, does it?" spoke Squinty, looking all around, first with his wide open eye and then with his queer, droopy one. The monkey ran along, now on the ground and now and then swinging himself up in the branches of trees by his long legs, each one of which had a sort of hand on the end. Sometimes he hung by his tail, for monkeys are made to do that. "My, I wish I could get up in the trees the way you do," said Squinty. "Do you think I could hang by my tail, Mappo?" "I don't know," answered the monkey, scratching his head. "Your tail has a nice little curl in it, almost like mine. Did you ever try to hang by your tail?" "No, I never did." "Well, you don't know what you can do until you try," said Mappo. The two animal friends soon came to where some of the acorn nuts had fallen off a tree, and they ate as many as they wanted. Mappo said they were not as good as cocoanuts, but he liked them pretty well, because he was hungry. and Squinty thought acorns were just the best things he had ever tasted, except apples and potatoes, or perhaps sour milk. By this time it was getting dark, and Squinty said, "Oh, dear, I wonder where we can sleep tonight." "Oh, do not let that worry you," said Mappo. "I'm used to living in the woods. When I was little, before I was caught and put in the circus, I lived in the woods all the while. See, there is a nice hollow stump filled with leaves for you to sleep in, and I will climb a tree and sleep in that." "Couldn't you sleep down in the stump with me?" asked Squinty. "It's sort of lonesome, all by yourself in the dark." "Yes, I'll sleep with you," said Mappo. "Now we'll make up a nice bed." But just as they were piling some more leaves in the hollow stump, they heard many voices of men shouting in the woods. "Here he is! Here is that runaway monkey! I see him! Come and catch him!" cried the men. "Oh, they are from the circus! They are after me!" cried Mappo. "I must run and hide. Good bye, Squinty. I'll see you again sometime, maybe. You'd better run also, or the circus men may catch you." Squinty looked through the trees and saw a number of men coming toward him and the monkey. Then Mappo climbed up in a tall tree, and Squinty ran away as fast as his little short legs would take him. "Never mind the pig, get the monkey!" Squinty heard one man cry, and then the comical little pig dodged under a bush and kept on running. When Squinty stopped running it was quite dark. He could hardly see, and he had run into several trees and bumped his nose a number of times. It hurt him very much. "Well, I guess I'm lost again," thought Squinty. "And I am all alone. Oh, what a lot of things has happened to me since I was in the pen with my mamma and papa and sisters and brothers. I wish I were back with them again." Squinty felt very sad and lonesome. He wondered if the circus men had caught Mappo. Then he felt that he had better find a place where he could cover himself up with the dry leaves and go to sleep. He walked about in the dark until, all of a sudden, he stumbled into a hole that was filled with dried grass. "I guess I had better stay here," thought Squinty, so he pulled some of the grass over him and went to sleep. When he awoke the sun was shining. "I must get my breakfast," thought Squinty. He hunted about until he had found some acorns, and then, coming to a little brook of water, he took a long drink. Something about the brook made Squinty look at it carefully. Why!" he exclaimed to himself. "It seems to me I have been here before. Yes, I'm sure I have. This is the place where I first came to get a drink, when first I ran away. It is near the pen where I used to live. Oh, I wonder if I can find that." The heart of Squinty was beating fast as he looked around at the scenes he had seen when he was a very little pig, some weeks before. Yes, it was the same brook. He was sure of it. And there was the garden of potatoes and the cornfield where he had first lost his way. Hark! What was that? Off in the rows of corn he heard a dog barking. Somehow he knew that dogs bark. If that could be Don, thought Squinty hopefully. The barking sounded nearer. Squinty turned around, standing on the edge of the little brook, and waited, his heart beating faster and faster. All at once there came running through the potato field a black and white dog. Squinty knew him at once. It was Don. "Bow wow! Bow wow!" barked Don. "Well, if there isn't that comical little pig, Squinty! Where in the world did you come from? You've been running away, I'll be bound. Now I'm going to take you back to the pen." "Oh, Don, I'm so glad to see you!" squealed Squinty. I did run away, but I never will any more. I am lost. Oh, Don, don't take me by the ear. I'll go with you." "All right," barked Don kindly. "Come along, your pen isn't far off." And he ran along beside the little pig, who, after many adventures, had wandered back home. Squinty and Don came to the edge of the potato field. "Well, I never!" exclaimed the farmer man, who was there hoeing the potatoes. "If there isn't that comical little pig I sold to that boy Bob, I wonder where he came from." "Bow wow! Bow wow! I found him!" barked Don, but of course the farmer did not understand. "Well, I'll put you back in the pen again until that boy sends for you," said the farmer, as he lifted Squinty over into the pen where his mamma and papa and brothers and sisters were. Why, it's Squinty!" cried Mrs. Pig. "He's come back!" grunted Mr. Pig. "Oh, I'm so glad," said Wuff Wuff. "And so am I," added Twisty Tail, as she rubbed her nose against Squinty's. "Where have you been, and what happened to you?" she asked her brother. "Oh, many things," he said. "I have learned some tricks. I have been up in a balloon. I met Slicko the jumping squirrel, Mappo the merry monkey, and I saw Tum Tum the jolly circus elephant. Now I'm home again." "And which did you like best of all?" asked Mrs. Pig, when they had finished asking him questions. "Getting back home," answered Squinty, as he took a big drink of sour milk. And that is the story of Squinty, the comical pig. The farmer sent word to the boy that his pet was back in the pen, but the boy said he thought he did not want a pet pig any more, so Squinty, for the time being, stayed with his family. End of Chapter 12. End of Squinty the Comical Pig by Richard Barnum.